think this whole aspect of recruiting right now, as we do a snapshot in time, is pretty fluid, but yet it's starting to take shape. And remember, my belief is that the Harrelson guy is a big key in this thing, landing him. They're doing this. In a perfect world, you would have grabbed point guard one, talked point guard one into the portal last week, brought point guard one onto campus. You would have signed point guard one, and you would have rolled from there because you would have had the credibility to build your class. As it is, they're sharing with the people that they're recruiting regarding point guard one. They're doing that. Now, is it going to happen? I've said from the very beginning, I don't know. But if we're going to have like super team status, so to speak, I've been of the mindset that you got to land him. But here's the other little wrinkle that's in the back of all this, okay? And I think it's minute and I think it's remote, but it's worth mentioning. Nate Ament, in the last little bit, has been sliding a little bit in draft projections. Could Tennessee take their bag that they've got dedicated to PG1 and go to Nate Ament and say, hey, last year LeBaron Philon did this and went from a mid to late first round pick into the lottery. And you could do that. We could get you stronger under Garrett Medenwald. You'd gain several pounds. We'd get you bigger, faster, stronger. And you, shout out to the great Rodney Woods, who knew Lee Majors and knows his real name. It's like Yearly or something. You could be the next $6 million man. Bigger, faster, stronger, with a bionic ankle. Tennessee right now feels like they're rolling in the portal. They feel like they're on a roll here. I'm not counting my chickens, but they think they're going to get the Harrelson guy. We'll see what happens. Again, if they don't, I didn't do it, but I have to share with you in real time what we believe is going on. We'll take some calls in our extra time. The playbook with the great William Pattison. You will bow thy head when you say thy name is on the way next. And we continue the conversation here.
You're listening to FM 105.7 and AM 1340, WKGN Knoxville, and W289CU Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
And here we go. Live from the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios, it's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio. With Brett Hudlander, Alex Sarkis, and Garrett Armbrust, I'm William Pattison. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this fine Wednesday from Knoxville, Tennessee. And we've got plenty to cover over the next 2 hours, including the latest transfer portal intel for Tennessee basketball. It's time to clean up a couple of things. So there's some guys on campus right now that are of importance. There are some new updates provided by On3's Pete Nakos regarding Juke Harris and Nate Ament and that budget. And also there's some names that I've had on the radar list that I'm now starting to cross out, I should say, as we get closer to trying to figure out who this Tennessee roster is going to be, what it's going to look like. And there is a lot of momentum right now for the Volunteers, and We'll break it down over the next 2 hours. We'll also discuss the Lady Vols in the portal, adding another commitment yesterday, and also have a visitor of importance as well as Kim Caldwell's club continues to try and figure things out heading into the 2026 season. A lot of players to replace, 13 of them specifically, but Caldwell has done a solid job so far in trying to figure out what that team looks like. And in hour number 2, we'll discuss Tennessee baseball getting a midweek victory over UNC Asheville as they also ride in with a lot of momentum heading into the weekend as they are set to host a top 25 ranked Ole Miss squad. And we'll also discuss a little NBA playoffs at the end of the show because I am an NBA guy and the games last night were great. And I know that a lot of people are interested in the transfer portal. We'll discuss all of that. The NBA playoffs will be at the very, very end of the show, so don't get upset. But plenty to cover over the next 2 hours. Happy you're here. If you're on that YouTube live stream, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss any fan run content. Very important this time of year. We also want to hear from you. Get active in that comment section. I've really appreciated that over the last 2 weeks. Fill us in with your questions, comments, whatever you want to say. We'll be reading that YouTube chat. But before we get into the action, let's welcome in the rest of the crew, beginning with Brett. Brett, how are you today?
Doing well. Yeah. Played a little indoor soccer last night. As you go through life and you play sports, you always have a rival. It seems like, whether it's an individual or a team, and teams have always stuck with me in that. And in adult league soccer, it's no different. I've been playing this team for quite some time, and it gets heated, to say the least, and we suffered a loss. And, I'm not comparing myself to LeBron by any means, but, I used to be able to get my team over the hump. My abilities have slowly diminished, I guess, but, and it's tough. It's frustrating. We had the lead with like 5 minutes left, and I couldn't get over the hump. And I went home very disappointed in myself, felt like I let the team down. And I got to be better than that. But, so I was a little frustrated last night. But, yeah, I guess it's just one of those things in life that, I'm still get upset about. So at least I still have that fire in my belly, I guess you could say.
That competitive drive.
Yes, absolutely, and everything. So, yeah, it was an unfortunate loss, losing to your rival, even in adult league soccer. I still get fired up. And co-ed at that. So that's sad to say, right? Like, I'm getting all emotional and upset about a co-ed adult league soccer game, but my juices were flowing last night, but man, that was a tough loss, to say the least.
Hey, it's part of it, and there's always the next opportunity.
There is, but it's tough, But man, that was a tough pill to swallow. But also, real quick on the soccer note, I got to shout out to One Knox plays tonight. And they play DC United, who's an MLS team, the highest level that we could play against as a small franchise, I guess. And it's the first time ever that we're playing an MLS team. And so that is also taking place. So I know we got a lot of, a few soccer fans that listen here and there, but, and Walker, of course, works for One Knox and things like that. But they play tonight at 7:30, Paramount Plus. So get a couple minutes. It's a huge game for the community of Knoxville to play a professional soccer team at this level. So just wanted to shout them out real quick as well.
Yeah, most certainly. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
Alex, to you, how are you today?
Doing good. The weather's great. This weather's been fantastic. I feel like now we finally hit our good weather groove here, and it's awesome. But no, I'm going to actually echo Brett's point here with that competitive spirit because we've got our second intramural softball game coming up on Thursday, and the group chat on the little intramural app has been firing off with some trash talk.
Nice.
Yeah, so that started earlier. I woke up to that yesterday morning, and it's the best. I mean, that competitiveness, and it doesn't go away. And firing off some trash talk. I forget who we're playing. I don't think it's a frat or anything because that normally gets fun, but no, we're going to hopefully go get the job done tomorrow night. I don't know if it'll be in the form of 31 runs, but hey, I'm going to do my job. I know that much.
Well, best of luck to you and the guys. I know last week I was surprised to hear that 31-1 final, but hey, you got a lot in the tank apparently.
We do.
So let's see how you guys do tomorrow night. Best of luck. Some competitors
That's
in
right.
the production room. Any competition for you, Garrett? How are you?
I'm doing good. Coming off those NBA games last night, still the Hornets game delivered. Good. The Kobe White shot was probably one of the better shots I've seen in a long time. And then, I mean, the shot Hero had was also really good. And then LaMelo Ball, one of the biggest moments of his career, happens during technical difficulties on Amazon Prime. You cannot make that up. And then the second game was almost just as good. Yeah. The Blazers and the Suns game, that was a really good game as well. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more out of Devin Booker in that game, but we'll get to that later in the second hour. But those were two really good play-in games. I enjoy the play-in. I think it's a good way to get those final teams into the field and add some excitement that you wouldn't normally get. So I enjoy the play-in.
Yeah, most certainly. I enjoyed the games last night. We'll talk more about that in an hour or two. But let's get into it. Our Tennessee Transfer Portal Central rolls on this Wednesday, and we'll begin with the recent updates. And the most recent is Bishop Boswell is headed to Maryland. A 6'2", 204-pound sophomore from Myers Park High School in Charlotte, North Carolina, started 33 times in 34 games this season for the Volunteers, averaging 6.2 points per game while shooting 42.5% from the floor and 38.5% from the three-point line. He was third on the team in both three-point field goals made with 30 and three-point percentage. And Boswell scored a career-high 13 points 4 times this year, including in Tennessee's 79-72 win over Virginia in the second round of the NCAA tournament. He also hit a career-high 4 3-pointers in that matchup. Boswell averaged 3.7 minutes per game off the bench while appearing in 28 games as a freshman last year. And I guess it's hard to contextualize like last season and this season. So his freshman year, which was technically 2 seasons ago, it was just 3.7 minutes off the bench. Obviously, this past year had a much bigger role, but now we'll look to find his spot on the Maryland Terrapins team out of the Big Ten. And a little bit of a surprising move, I guess, not as surprising in the last 16 hours in a sense, but when he entered the portal, you figured, okay, NC State probably going to be a team to think about because of his ties to North Carolina, in addition to Justin Gainey, a former Tennessee assistant coach, taking over for the Wolfpack this year. And then Indiana was also a team that I thought about as well because Rod Clark, a former Tennessee assistant that helped recruit Boswell of Tennessee, is now with the Hoosiers. So those were the 2 teams I thought of initially. He met with NC State and then hops on a jet and goes to Maryland and is a done deal. So he's going to be a Maryland Terrapin. I wish him the best. Buzz Williams, the head coach for them, and he's entering his second season. He was originally with Texas A&M before that. But, you know, for the guys that have transferred elsewhere, you know, Jalen Carey is headed to Missouri. That's a team Tennessee might have to go up against in SEC play. Michigan, a team that JP Estrella decided to go to, was a little bit of an interesting one considering Tennessee got blown out by them in the Elite Eight. But Maryland, not really any ties negatively to Tennessee. So best of luck to him.
They gave us Gillespie. That was nice of them.
Yeah, I guess if you want to look at it that way, a trade. Jacoby Gillespie for Bishop
we're probably
going
to get the better end of that
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit of a surprising move initially, but over the last 12 hours, 16 hours, it's trending in that direction. Best of luck to him. But not a whole lot to make of this because, I mean, it's a team that Tennessee's most likely not going to go up against. Garrett, what do you make of the move?
I'll be interested to see how much he plays because right now Maryland has the number 1 2026 overall team ranking from 247. They have a top 8 recruiting class in the country, and now with these, they've gotten 3 transfer guys, and then they have a 5-star coming in, 4-star, 2 4-stars, and a 3-star. So Buzz Williams has the number 1 overall 2026 class right now. So I don't know. We'll see how much
transfer class
that's overall. So recruiting and transfer portal together. Gotcha. Yeah, I guess we'll see how much he plays. I'm not sure if he's going to see any more playing time than he saw here. I'm not exactly sure what his NIL package will look like there, but I don't know. As you said, it's not really – I don't really have too much of an opinion on it. We're not going to play them. They're not going to play us. We're not in the same conference. Probably not going to see each other in the NCAA tournament, so wish him well.
Brett, what about you? What do you make of the move, Bishop Boswell to Maryland?
I mean, it's very interesting. You know, JP to Michigan came out of nowhere. This kind of, and maybe you heard Maryland through the grapevine, but obviously, you're in the know a little bit more than I am. So it's a little surprising fit, especially when Garrett's saying all that other stuff about what they've already brought in and things like that. So it's an interesting fit. Maybe he is a good culture guy. He comes from a good program in Tennessee, and maybe that's what Buzz Williams is trying to establish a little bit at his program and things like that. So, but outside of that, it doesn't really move the needle a whole lot. Like you said, I was indifferent on Bishop, and things like that. I had an up and down season, had some moments here and there, but overall, it's just he's just going to be a good role player for Maryland. He doesn't do anything, like Garrett said, move the needle at all. So, you just wish him the best of luck.
And Alex, to you, what do you make of the commitment for Boswell?
Yeah, definitely. I think a little surprising considering, the whole Justin Gainey move. That's certainly what I expected when Bishop entered. But no, this is a good get for Buzz Williams. I think this is a bigger loss for Tennessee than a lot of people may think. I think he was one of Tennessee's MVPs this year. And, you can look at the stats, and they're not the flashiest thing in the world, but he was an anchor of that starting five, I think, all year. And he's a guy that what you're going to get out of him every single game. You're going to get consistent defense. You're going to get his rebounding numbers were good this year. So I like this for Buzz Williams, and obviously a Maryland team that's trying to improve in the Big Ten and overall this upcoming season. If he doesn't start, it's a great guy to have coming off the bench. But I like this, and good for Bishop, another guy that was always very pleasant to talk to. And, I wish him the best.
Well, let's pivot over to the guys that are on campus or scheduled to arrive on campus today, and that is Jalen Harlison out of Notre Dame. He arrived on campus last night, and he's a 6'7", 220-pound forward who averaged 16.2 points, 4 rebounds, and 2.6 assists this past season in 27 games for the Fighting Irish. He shot 51.1% from the floor, but just 20% from the three-point line and 67.4% at the free throw stripe, and played in 26.6 minutes of action on average in 23 games, starting 23 times in his 27 total games. He's also considering Ohio State and North Carolina, but currently Tennessee trending with a lot of momentum right now for Harlison, a former McDonald's All-American, a Team USA U17 member where he played with the Boozer Twins and Koa Pete and a number of other fascinating freshmen from this past season. And look, I know his numbers from the three-point stripe are a little bit concerning, but this is a guy that is a former 5-star player that is coming back for a second season of college, looking to get to the NBA next year. And he's picking Tennessee. If he were to commit there, he's picking Tennessee because of the development under Rick Barnes and the possibilities of competing on an elite roster this upcoming season. So I think Harlison would be a great addition, and you hope that you can get a locked-in commitment before he decides to leave, because that's what the transfer portal is all about. Get these guys on campus, get the job done, and we'll see where this process goes. But right now, Tennessee trending in the right direction. From the people I talked to, Pete Nakos earlier today for On 3 said Tennessee trending in the right direction as well. How do you value a possible commitment, Garrett, out of Harlison?
I think he's a lot more underrated than a lot of people think. I think a lot of people are undervaluing how good he is. This guy was a 5-star top 20 recruit in ESPN's top 300 in 2025. As you said, put on the Team USA U17 team. I understand his three-point shooting is pretty much non-existent, but he gave you 16 points and 4 rebounds a night at Notre Dame. And obviously he had an increased role on that team, but there were plenty of games where he went out against solid opponents and gave you 20, 25 points. So obviously he's not going to be the number one scoring option on this roster, but to be able to have a guy that, wants to come to Tennessee, hopefully get developed under Rick Barnes and pursue those NBA draft waters eventually. I think this is a great guy. Makes a lot of shots from around the basket, 6'7", 220, pretty big guy. I would love to have this guy on your team. I think if you get him and you can land, some of these other guys that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, I think you're really starting to build a really good starting five. And I think if you land a guy like him, this gives you Final Four potential, because he was the highest rated recruit in Notre Dame history, and anyone that's a 5-star that has success their freshman year is probably going to have even more success their sophomore year. So I think this would be a really good fit for Tennessee. I would love to see him here. The limited games that I saw him play in the season, I mean, he was a solid player, and he can score the basketball, and that's what you're looking for on this team next year.
Yeah, he's a really good inside the perimeter scorer, whether it's using his athleticism to posterize a player. Was on a SportsCenter top 10 moment earlier this season with a poster in a matchup against Syracuse. Had a buzzer beater against TCU to send it to overtime. This guy's a gamer. And I think when you look at his frame at 6'7" and a 6'10" wingspan, that's a player that can be versatile around the court on both offense and defense. And I think he pairs well for Rick Barnes and the type of identity that he likes to go out and quest for in the transfer portal or recruiting process. And Alex, to you, what do you make of Harrelson's game, and how does it fit here in Knoxville?
I think it fits really well, and this would really, I think, get Tennessee really grooving in the portal. Last week we were talking about really starting to get guys in the building, get that starting five put together. Harlison, I mean, this is what you want. Obviously, I think coming from the power forward is a big deal here. A lot of these guys that we've been talking about in these last couple of days have been, mostly mid-major guys. But this is big, and I think it's important to remember that not all development is linear for these freshmen. Not everybody's going to have the AJ DeBonce year or the Nate Amen kind of year. Like, it's important, I think, to remember that these guys are young and not everybody's going to break out like these guys in their freshman year. So like you said, he's coming here for a chance to compete at an elite level and really get that track record improved. So I think it's a good spot, and man, for Tennessee's sake, it's huge because you get, the tools you want. I know his 3-point shooting's not there, but as Garrett said, he's still giving you 16 points a night. And what was one of Tennessee's big issues this year? Scoring around the rim. So if he can do that at a good level, he shoots 50%. That's big time. And if they can get him in, that's big.
Yeah, highly efficient scorer around the cup. And when I say score the basketball, I talk about, being able to take it inside as a slasher, being able to finish around the rim, but also being able to find your shot off the dribble inside the perimeter. Obviously, the numbers aren't necessarily there from the three-point line, but the ability to take it off the dribble on the wing and drive inside, find a shot at the elbow, find a shot in the low block, whatever it may be, a very gifted scorer inside the perimeter. And I think that's a big boost for Tennessee if you're able to land him. Brett, to you, what do you make of his game? How would he fit here at Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, he'd fit nicely. Even the couple of games, there's only a couple. He only shot 25 on the season, but he had a couple of games where he shot 2 or more. There's one game he was 3 for 4 from 3, and another game he's 2 for 3. So it seems like if he shoots them, he made a decent percentage of them. So maybe he can develop that. I am a little more concerned about his free throw shooting more than anything. He's great at getting to the line. There were multiple games he shot double-digit free throws, and he was making 6-7 a game. You can kind of live with that, and things like that. You like his aggressiveness and things like that. So, and he also can create for others. He averages 3-4 assists a game, so you like that as well. So, yeah, I think anybody that can score the basketball, which he can, despite having the lack of 3-point shooting, I think that can still help a team. And some people are comparing him a little bit to Triple J, which I thought was a great comparison. Who developed a shot as he stayed, the longer he stayed here. So, I like this fit. And, I think he can be a very good get for Tennessee, just ready for him to sign and get this ball rolling.
Now, while Harrelson is on campus currently, Terrence Hill Jr., a guard from Virginia Commonwealth, is expected to arrive today. And that is important for Tennessee because he visited Kansas earlier in the week. And a lot of people, including myself, were bracing to possibly hear the news that he would not make it to Knoxville. But right now, the current plan is that Terrence Hill Jr. will arrive later this evening for his official visit, and that's going to be a multi-day visit with the staff as they try to find their point guard. That's one of the top priorities for this team right now. And Terrence Hill Jr., a 6'3", 180-pound guard, averaged 15 points a game on 46.6% shooting from the field this past season. He's out of Portland, Oregon, and he scored 34 points in the Rams' upset victory over North Carolina in the round of 64 in the NCAA tournament. So this is a guy that's leveled up on the big stage. We discussed it yesterday. I really like that ability for him, and Also had 17 against a team in Illinois that made it to the Final Four this year in the NCAA tournament. So where I would stand if you're able to add Hill Jr. to your roster as well is now you're really starting to see a starting five. I don't think Terrence Hill is necessarily a pure point guard, but with the way you're building your roster, you might have 2 to 3 ball handlers around the court, and that's not something Tennessee has really had in the last couple of years. And I think that would be huge as you go up against a number of different teams in conference play and also in the tournament. You've got to have multiple different ways to beat teams. And having a Day-Day Ames, a really good ball handler, having a Terrence Hill Jr., a really good ball handler, and then maybe you add a Juke Harris into that mix, you've got 3 guys around the perimeter that can handle the ball on their own. And we're not even discussing the other guys on this Tennessee roster currently. Troy Henderson, you expect him to take an upgrade in his second season with the Vols. You've also got high school recruits that are coming in. And then Tyler Lundblade, not necessarily a ball handler, but he's another guy around the perimeter that's going to draw attention. If you're able to add Terrence Hill Jr., if you're able to add a Jalen Harlison, now you're really starting to see what this group could look like. And you've still got a big ticket item left to go in Juke Harris. And you've still got a pending decision from Nate Ament. This is where Tennessee can really start to build some momentum and form not just a great SEC team, but one of the best teams in college basketball with the way you're currently riding in. I'm not calling it. I'm not saying that Tennessee is getting all of these guys, but right now, the way it's trending, being able to get a guy on campus after visiting Kansas, being able to get a Jalen Harlison on campus after having talks with Ohio State and North Carolina, I think this is big for Tennessee, but you got to close the door on these guys before they leave, and that's going to be the key over the next 48 hours for this staff. But Alex, to you, where do you stand with this team if you're able to add a Terrence Hill Jr. into the mix and maybe you get a commitment from Harlison as well?
Oh, it'd be a lot better than we were talking about last week, as I touched on. I mean, you get possibly, your point guard here, which is a thing that really this team needs. I mean, yeah, you don't know what Ethan Berg's going to do, but you still got Troy Henderson in the building. Ball handlers that I think, could see improvements, in their second year with Tennessee anyway, in their own right. So, no, this would be really huge. And obviously we saw what he did in the tournament. If you have a guy that can do something like that, it's in there. And I think that it's an important thing to definitely look at. But getting that starting five is such a huge deal. And the other thing is all these guys can score the basketball, and that's something that we've hammered home, but it's true. And that's what Tennessee needs to break through. And Terrence Hill, a guy that, again, it really changes, I think, the makeup of this team, because when you have 5 guys that can all score, that's huge. And especially, if they turn out to be good defensive players as well, which everyone in Rick Barnes' system seems to become, you're looking at something special. So, if the chips continue to fall the way that people are predicting they will, then you're going to be probably feeling pretty good about this Tennessee team as a whole, and Terrence Hill would only add to that.
And Garrett, to you, Terrence Hill is not a guy that started the entirety of the season for Virginia Commonwealth, but he is still a highly regarded transfer portal target across the country. Is Tennessee over-evaluating here, or are teams across the country over-evaluating, considering he wasn't a starter for VCU this past year? Or is this a guy that continued to get better and now has an opportunity to be alongside some really talented players at Tennessee next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the need for a point guard here is what's, the most valuable, because, even if you were to land Harlison and Harris, but you didn't have a true point guard, or you had Henderson as your point guard, would you be able to get the most out of your roster? Because obviously you have Rubin who's going to be in the paint. And if you want to have Lundblade be able to come off these, screen plays and off-ball shots, it seems like you need a point guard for all that to work. And I think if you bring in Hill, obviously has the ability to score. You saw that in the NCAA tournament, leading his team back from a 19-point deficit against UNC and basically doing that on his own. But I think you have to feel good about landing him here, because I think there's a lot of uncertainties with Kansas and Lawrence this season. Obviously, you've had the uncertainties with Bill Self and his health over the past season. And it's going to be a completely different roster there. Obviously, they lose Fleury Badunga to the portal. They lose Bryson Tiller to the portal. They're losing, their number one player in Darren Peterson to the NBA draft. So I just feel like even with Tennessee, with the roster turnover, there's a lot more certainties than what you have in Rick Barnes and this team than what you would have on Kansas. So I think getting a true point guard in, that can play for you is a huge thing that you need to check off this list. And as you said, if you can get him, the big ticket that you're going after, Juke Harris, I think that allows him to feel like he has the pieces around him, because I think that's something that Juke Harris is going to want. He's going to want to have the pieces around him to compete for a national championship. That's why he's coming back to college. So I think you have to get these pieces around if you do want to land that big player.
Brett, to you, Terrence Hill Jr., not necessarily a true point guard, but would give you the ability to have multiple ball handling guards on this team. How big is a possible commitment from him? I will say, though, Kansas still firmly in the mix. I'd say
100%.
Before he arrives on campus, Kansas probably the leader in the clubhouse to land him. But Tennessee has multiple days to spurn that their way. If you're able to add Hill Jr., how do you feel about this roster at the time?
Well, I've felt. I think from day one that he hit the portal, I think I've been mentioning his name as a guy I thought we should get in on. I was very impressed with him. I really only watched him in the tournament, to be honest, and what he did there. And he showed flashes in their next game against Illinois. I think he almost put up 20 in that one too. So, this would be a huge get. I think he comes from that background, a defensive background. Like VCU used to be, you would think trade them with defense and things like that. I don't know how much they are that now, but that's what I think of when I think of VCU. Just hard nose. I think he can do it on both ends of the court as well. I guess my only concern is, can you guys see Juke and this guy seem very similar? Can you see them coexisting on a basketball court? Because neither one, I guess, is that any issue with you guys? If you were Landry, you just, hey, let's get them on the court together and just let them go play ball.
Well, look, I think all of them are unique in the style of play. I think Harris, at his size, 6'7", and what he's able to do differentiates himself from Terrence Hill Jr., a 6'3" guard. But I think the greatest possibility for Tennessee is that you've got multiple guys that can go get a bucket.
Yeah.
And Day-Day Ames is likely going to come off the bench for this team, and Ames could probably be a starter on a lot of other teams across the country. And that's going to be a huge positive for Tennessee if that's the case. Or, if not Ames, a Tyler Lundblade. So I'm not worried per se about, the similarities in game. I think it's a positive because, as we know in basketball, guys have off nights. Guys are really hot some nights. And when you've got multiple scores, multiple guys that have had high usage rates elsewhere as being a volume scorer, then I think it pairs well for Tennessee to have multiple. And we'll talk about one of those volume scorers in Juke Harris out of Wake Forest when we return, because there is some momentum right now for Tennessee that is starting to pick up nationally as well. Pete Nakos discussed it earlier on one of his articles. We'll talk about that and where the Vols stand with Juke Harris when we return right here on the Playbook.
For the fans, by the fans, this is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
What kind of day is it? It's a White Claw day. Grab a pack, grab your friends. Everything else in life can wait. Your friends shouldn't. Let's go. White Claw. Grab life by the claw. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. White Claw Seltzer Works, Chicago, Illinois.
Vol fans, reimagine your home at Broadway Carpets and Flooring for any remodeling or building needs. With a variety of carpets, rugs, hardwood, vinyl, and stone, Broadway has all the flooring and installation options you're looking for, including pet-resistant products like Pet Perfect Carpet from Shaw Floors. Visit their showroom in downtown Knoxville or the location in West Knoxville located on Kingston Pike near Pellissippi Parkway today.
A brand built in Tennessee and born from the love of the game, Inward Half revolutionizes golfing comfort. Crafted by a former pro and dedicated enthusiast just like you, our luxury performance wear guarantees you stay cool and comfortable through every swing and every day. We're not just a brand. We've set out to create a lifestyle for those who understand that impeccable style and premium performance are a hole-in-one. Enjoy the walk-in with Inward Half.
Smoky Mountain Brewery is the place to be for game day. From the moment you walk in, it's wall-to-wall big screens, making Smoky Mountain Brewery the perfect place to watch the Vols or your favorite team in action. With locations in Turkey Creek, Maryville, Pigeon Forge, and Gatlinburg, you're never far away from a great time at Smoky Mountain Brewery. Try one of their world-famous microbrews like Black Bear Ale, Mountain Light, or Cherokee Ale. Juicy burgers, wings that bring the heat, and delicious handmade pizzas made with hand-tossed crust from the freshest ingredients and their own special sauce from a secret recipe, topped off with hand-grated cheese and farm-fresh toppings. And don't forget, those famous microbrews are also available in kegs for your next party or in 6-packs and growlers to go. So grab your crew and head to Smoky Mountain Brewery and tell them Fan Run Radio sent you. Smoky Mountain Brewery. Eat local, eat good.
The voluntary reaction.
Can't get enough Tennessee basketball? Join Fan Run Radio as soon as every UT game is over for Big Orange Country's post-game radio free-for-all. The voluntary reaction. We'll be taking your calls on the Vols as soon as every game is over. So tune in and buckle up as we drink from the keg of glory all the way to the Final Four.
The voluntary reaction. Raw, unfiltered, real.
Hey, Vols fans, Cody Brown here. I grew up right here in Tennessee and know what it means when someone says, I've got your back. That's why you can trust Farm Bureau Insurance of Tennessee. Whether it's your home, your vehicle, your family's future, or the business you built from the ground up, we will show up for all of your insurance needs. We are Tennesseans who understand what matters, which is doing right by you. Insurance is not all about just paperwork and policies, but it's about the people we insure every day. So if you want insurance that hits home, give me a call at 865-992-3871. Go Vols.
That's why they call me sushi.
All right, back here on the Playbook. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this fine Wednesday from Knoxville, Tennessee. And one of the most popular names in the transfer portal this year is Juke Harris out of Wake Forest. A 6'7" wing who averaged 21.4 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 1.9 assists per game while shooting 44.4% from the field and 33.2% from three. He was an All-ACC member and the ACC's most improved player, and he considered Tennessee out of high school. That relationship has paired well in this recruitment process, and North Carolina and Michigan are on the mix or in the mix as well. All teams have felt good, but at this point right now, there is a significant amount of momentum for Tennessee. And On Three's Pete Nakos came out with it earlier today that Tennessee seems to be trending in the right direction a little bit more so than North Carolina. And I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I'd say things are looking up right now for Tennessee, possibly landing Juke Harris. I like the Vols' chances at the moment. I think throughout this process, and we know the transfer portal is very fluid, folks. It goes up and down. It's a roller coaster. But right now, things do seem to be heading Tennessee's way. The value of the relationship with Rick Barnes and this staff and Harris and his family has helped Tennessee out a ton over the last couple of weeks. And Barnes believes he can get this guy to a first-round pick in the NBA draft next year. Right now, he's kind of floating around that early second, mid-second round pick selection. Barnes believes he can make him a first-rounder. And very similar to Yaxel Lindenborg, who was kind of in the same spot last year out of UAB before he transferred to Michigan. He considered going to the NBA draft as well. I thought he was going to go. And he was kind of a late first-round mock. But he decided to stay in college and now is going to be a lottery pick because of what he did at Michigan this past year. So if I'm Tennessee, I continue to go after Harlison. I continue to go after Terrence Hill Jr., and I continue to be all over Juke Harris until he signs that dotted line, because if Juke Harris were to commit to Tennessee, next season has a completely different outlook than I think Tennessee has ever had under Rick Barnes. This goes from being a team that could be an Elite Eight team to a team that is almost expected to make the Final Four. And I don't think that's ever been said for a Tennessee basketball team preseason. Am I wrong in saying that? Has there ever been a team that is like that? That's going to be a Final Four?
You're saying if you had all three.
I'm just if you add Juke Harris, you add Harrelson, you add Hill Jr.
Yeah,
Hill Jr. is still up in the air.
Though.
Not just Juke by himself.
Yeah, okay, you're saying all three.
But you have a player that is going to be among one of the best players in the country preseason, All-American.
Well, you saw what he did to Jacoby. The jump Jacoby made from Maryland to Tennessee was huge. Not that he's going to be, he's not as highly decorated as Juke Harris is in the portal, but like you saw the jump Jacoby made under Barnes, and I think Barnes could easily take this guy to another level, no doubt about it. He's already got the skill set to do that as long as he takes the coaching.
If you want to be a championship team, you've got to have a big ticket item, and you've got to have a guy like Juke Harris. If not Juke Harris, a Nate Ament. But I think with Juke Harris, you know what he is because you've already seen it for multiple seasons now. So that's why I think Tennessee's been so big on this because they realize how close they are to getting to that point. They realize how close they are to a Final Four. You've got the coach for it. There's no doubt about that. For what he has done the last 3 seasons, 3 straight Elite Eight appearances, this past year's team probably had no business playing in the Elite Eight. But you were able to just outcoach and outperform some good teams on the path to playing Michigan. But against Michigan, you were completely outmanned because they just had a better roster. And Tennessee has approached this transfer portal a lot differently than last year. And if you're able to land a guy like Juke Harris, that is an example of that because that means you're willing to put up the high dollar, and that means you're willing to stay persistent until you are proven otherwise. And, I mean, I like the Vols' chances right now. I'm not calling it. I'm not saying it's a done deal. This whole process is very fluid. But if you land Juke Harris, those expectations for next season change immediately, and there are likely other guys to follow that process. If you're able to land Juke Harris, Garrett, what does that do for Tennessee? And also in the recruiting process for these other guys, they look around and say, okay, Tennessee's forming a damn good team. I want to be a part of that. Does that help them out?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a selling point. I mean, you're bringing in a guy that's a top, undisputed top 5-7 player of the transfer portal. It could be a first-round draft pick next season with a little bit more development. 3-level score. I mean, if you bring him in, your offense obviously is going to be really good next season. You're going to have an elite 3-point shooter in Lundblad. You're going to have, Ames most likely coming off the bench who can give you points at any moment.
Get you 20.
Yeah. You're going to have Juke Harris if you land him. And then if you can land, one other guy, I mean, this will be the best roster you've had since 2018-19 with Grant Williams and company. I would say, going back to your question of saying, like, is there any team that you ever thought preseason could – I would say that was the team. Like, I think that team had a lot of hype, like, coming into the season. Maybe not this much hype, but that team had a lot of hype. But no, I mean, this is like a program-changing player if you get him because this is a Dalton Knecht, Chaz Lanier type guy that you go out – and Tennessee hasn't really done this in the portal where they've gone out. I mean, to an extent they have, but they really haven't gone out and got a top 5 power program player and been like, you're going to come here, we're going to match the offer of any other school, and you're going to come play for us. And you're also, I've seen on Twitter right now that an on-3 Michigan guy has also logged an expert prediction crystal ball for us to get him. So hopefully, if that's a sign that Michigan people from on-3 are putting that, obviously it seemed like it was kind of between us and Michigan that all signs would hopefully point toward a landing spot of him today.
Alex, what do you make of these developments? It seems like there's some trending momentum for Juke Harris. How big of a difference does he make if you're able to add him?
Garrett said the word program changing, I think, and it would certainly give this team the most hype that I've seen for a Rick Barnes roster. And, I mean, you look at what he can do, versatile, and I think another thing it's important to think is he did it at the Power 4 level. And Garrett talked about it. I mean, this is not Dalton Knecht or Chaz Lanier. Obviously, very good elite players, but those guys did it at the mid-major level before. This is a guy who is proven, who very well could go to the NBA this year. And, man, he comes back for another year. You've got that starting 5. You've got that blue-chip prospect of this transfer portal, I mean, it's huge, and it really transforms everything. You hit on that appeal to other players coming in. That's a big deal. Last week, I was a little bit concerned that they weren't getting the guys to have that appeal, but now, it seems like they're getting them in, and it's huge. And a guy who can score like this, I mean, I think he had 3 30-point games this season, and in the ACC, so it's just ginormous. And when you can do that, you got to be thinking Final Four. Because I think that was obviously the main goal this offseason. It's go get guys that can get you to a Final Four, and this is a guy that can get you there. I mean, without a doubt. So
would you be? I mean, you would know this. Would you be able? Do you think you could sign all 3 of these players? Like, would that be within your budget to get all 3 of them, or if you get Harris, can you only afford one of the 2 in Hill and Harrelson?
I think it's possible to get all of them.
Yeah, I would get. Yeah, I would say you're getting all 3 if you can, for sure.
Because if you're getting Hill, though, you're matching Kansas's offering price because he's already been on a visit.
Yeah, I mean,
because I don't think you spent all that much right now.
Kansas and Terrence Hill, I think, is most certainly still in play. I wouldn't consider Tennessee the favorite at this point in time, but again, you get them on campus, and that is a good sign. But I feel like right now you're trending in the right direction for Harris. You've got other, Michigan people are basically throwing the white flag up. And Michigan was really the one that threw in a ton of issues, at least heading into the weekend, with the visit and, the money, because they've obviously got a war chest. But, I mean, my understanding is Tennessee has continued to be aggressive in the offers and have tried to match, whatever a Michigan is willing to do.
Tennessee knows you got to have the 3 if you're going to get to the Final Four. You can't do 1 out of the 3 or 2 out of the 3. I feel like you've got to get all 3 to legitimately get over the hump of getting to the Final Four. It takes more than just one elite scorer. I mean, we've had that. We had it with Dalton Connect. We lacked another scorer to get us over the hump against Purdue. So I think you have to have all 3. I don't think our roster is good enough if you just add Juke Harris and that'd be kind of it, or you just go lesser than Terrence Hill. I think you need. I think you at least need Hill and Harris in my mind. But all 3 would be. Yeah, you're cooking with fire right there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think again you want Harrelson to commit before he leaves, and I think that is more than doable. Terrence Hill Jr. is a little bit of a question mark. We still got to wait for him to get on campus.
Yeah,
but. I think there's still work left to be done. But if you're able to add a big ticket item, at least just in my philosophy, Tennessee would not be able to compete for a national title if you don't have a big ticket item. And I think if you've got one, you could still fill.
So you don't think you'd be good enough if you just got Hill and Harrelson and then kept Lundblade?
No.
You still think you need another
I think if you miss Harris, you miss out on I'm like, you're not going to be the same tier as other teams.
This would be like Michigan without, not to the same extent, but it would almost be like Michigan without Yaxel.
I totally agree. Like, if you look across the country, the best teams have one just, all-American, consensus, top 5 player in the country. And Harris would be that next year.
Unless that guy down the road enters.
Well... Tyler Tanner's not in the portal.
I know. You said his name, not me. I could have been talking about someone like Carson Newman.
But LMU's got it. I'm just speaking from what I've seen over the last couple of years in college basketball. You've got to go get or have a guy on your roster that is among the best in the country. Walter Clayton was one of the best in the country for Florida. Last year, Yaxel Lindenborg was that. Go down the list. Donovan Clingan was dominant. Zach Edey was dominant. Those teams were able, and those were top 5, top 10 players in the country. Jacoby Gillespie was very valuable this year, but guard play can only get you so far if you don't have the complementary pieces. The roster you're building right now has the complementary pieces around, but you just need that big ticket. You need that big fish, and that would be Harris. And that's why I believe that if you are able to add him, things go from this is a second weekend team to this is a team firmly in the mix for a national championship contention. And I don't think you've had that preseason. I really don't. I mean, like the Dalton Connect year, you didn't know Dalton Connect was special until the year began.
Yeah.
And in the Chaz Lanier year, you knew you had a ton of returning pieces, but it wasn't like that was a team that had championship expectations. Like, I think this would be a team that has championship expectations if you were to add them.
Your first 5 are strong, but how strong is like the bench? Like, you're pretty weak. I mean, you're banking on,
but let's say
if you add those guys,
if you add those guys, you've got either a Day-Day Ames or a Tyler Lundblade off the bench. You've got Troy Anderson.
I see does Lundblade start?
Well, I mean, it depends on, but it's either. I mean, you've got like 6 or 7 players that are all like starting caliber.
The top players are only. I mean, the top teams are only rotating 7 guys, really.
Yeah, but they're usually bringing off really good players. Like Trey McKinney was coming off the bench from Michigan. And,
well, I mean,
some of those. Guys.
But one of your guys one of your freshmen that you're bringing in could also.
I mean, they could pop easily, but there's a lot of unknown with them. I mean, no doubt about it. But yeah, I mean, obviously you're gonna take these 5 guys and put them out on the court and let them play as much as they can.
Yeah.
I think Dwayne Brown's going to take a step, obviously, and things like that. So, yeah, just got to land him. Finish.
Now, I will say, as someone in the comment section adds, what about the NBA? You'd still have to worry about that because he's going to test the NBA waters. And, if you were able to add him or you had to recruit him regardless, you knew that in the back of your mind. North Carolina knows that. Michigan knows that. He could still go to the NBA draft. But I do think,
or any other team that wants to get in,
I think at this point it's pretty solidified.
Really? Okay.
Just those. I'd really say North Carolina and Tennessee right now would be the 2, because I think he values those relationships. We mentioned Kim English yesterday has that relation from high school with him, and Tennessee recruited this guy out of high school as well. So those relationships I think have been.
But
big
a team
here.
like Kentucky, they're doing terrible. They don't come in with the. Boom. I mean, they're missing out left. Like, I still worry, like, because if he's going to go through the draft process, you're still talking. So you're talking another month at least before you get a final answer from this guy. Portal's going to close down.
Yeah.
Less and less players are there. And then if you got a player still sitting there that's uncommitted or unsigned, I'd be a little nervous. Because you want to get the job done as soon as you can, get him signed. But that's the only thing I worry about if he does, because Chaz went, the portal, he went forever.
He did go. Yeah. He went for a while.
So, and he was right around the same area we're talking about this guy being picked at, until he only decided to come to Tennessee.
We'll continue to talk about it when we return right here on the Playbook on Fan Run Radio.
Catch up with all things Fan Run by subscribing to our podcast feed. Like, rate, and download the show from the Fan Run app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Wilco at Knoxville Smiles. Have you ever wanted to improve the look of your smile? We know firsthand what the power of a great smile means to a person's confidence and health. Our team of doctors can provide you with an array of options for helping you achieve your cosmetic goals. From simply moving teeth into a better position, to reversible cosmetic bonding, to full mouth implant-supported dentures. It is our goal to help patients feel good about their appearance while achieving optimal health. Want to learn more? Call us at 865-539-1776 to schedule an evaluation, or visit us online at knoxvillesmiles.com.
Hi, this is Bo Kregner from the Kregner Group of Realty Executives, and I know there's a lot of choices here in East Tennessee when it comes to choosing a realtor. Here's why the Kregner Group is different. At the Kregner Group, our motto
one of the biggest calling cards for the Volunteers throughout this process. And, while it's not a done deal yet, and obviously, as you mentioned, the NBA draft is still on the table, and the expectation is that is still going to be an option, most likely, for him to have the ability to enter. But in terms of building a roster and forming a competitive championship-level squad, there were a lot of question marks about, Tennessee striking out earlier in the process. Last Thursday, it felt like Tennessee was going to whiff on all of their top targets. And then you get a little bit of momentum, and you continue to dig and dig and dig, and now Tennessee seems to be the favorite to land Harris amongst North Carolina people, Michigan people, national people, and the ones I talked to as well. So, again, not a done deal, but Tennessee trending in the right direction there. And you've already got Tyler Lundblade, a guard out of Belmont in the boat, Miles Rubin, a center out of Loyola Chicago, and a guard in Day-Day Ames out of California. And you'll see if you'll get a commitment from Harlison before he decides to leave. There's Chris Washington Jr., a high school four-star player, the number one player in the state of Tennessee. He's making his commitment later this week. You still have the ability to add him, but you're forming a strong roster. But when we come back in hour two, I do want to discuss, I think, the one missing piece for this team at this point in time, even if you were able to add all these guys we're listing, because I do think center and a true 7-footer is still missing for this group, and we'll try to identify who that guy could be, and also have some updates to those on-the-radar targets that we've done over the last couple of weeks as well. Some guys I'm ruling out.
Didn't you mention a center the other day that was visiting St. John's?
Yeah, Mustafa Thiem out of Cincinnati was a 7-footer that we discussed. There's a new target in Jaden Hastings out of Boston College. We'll discuss him in hour two as well. But I'm ruling out a couple of these on-the-radar targets as Tennessee continues to move forward because I think you're starting to figure out who your lineup is going to be, which is going to axe out a couple of these guys. But I think a couple of them still could be added as depth pieces, but it depends on how much money you want to spend. Because I will say this, from, looking at some of these lower-level guys like Corey Cotton out of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, these guys are expensive too. It's pretty amazing what the market is for transfer portal players this year. And Evan Maya did a hell of an article yesterday about the portal right now and the price and the budget for these kids, how it's like up 63% from last year, and the most overpaid position is center currently.
Wow.
And you look at, the Samto Cyril from Georgia, he's committed, correct?
To Miami.
Miami, okay, yeah, because he got $4 million to go there. And he's a good player, but like $4 million for that, I think, is questionable. But what we were discussing during the tournament, I think, is a direct reflection of why you're seeing these big payouts for those type of guys. Because in the tournament, the big play was important.
Absolutely.
Ade Mara was important. Taurus Reed from UConn was important. Like, if you had some really good big play, you won games. And I think now teams are over-evaluating that and are willing to pay out higher prices because they just saw that in the tournament. Kind of recency bias, right? You can make the comparison like the Golden State Warriors when they were drilling all those threes. The Houston Rockets said, okay, we're just going to be predicated on pointing up 45 threes a night. We're going to go all in on that. And I think you're now seeing some teams watching the tournament this past year saying, oh, those centers are good. Let's just go all out for those guys. But I think that is still a position of need for Tennessee, a 7-foot center or a 7-footer on this roster that Tennessee does not have at this point in time. So when we come back in hour two, we'll discuss that. We'll X off a couple of on-the-radar guys and also pivot over to the Diamond, where Tennessee baseball got a win yesterday over UNC Asheville, and talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs to end it up. So stay right here. An important hour two on the way. Ton of moving pieces right now. Stay right here. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio.
Follow us on Twitter or X or whatever the they're calling it these days at Fox Sports Knox, Fox Sports Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
Blackford Veterinary Surgery Referral specializes in surgeries not regularly performed by your pet's general veterinarian. They're currently accepting referrals from vets all across the country. With their newly renovated state-of-the-art surgery center and highly trained staff, clients can rely on professional and thorough care. If your vet says that your pet needs surgery or rehab, ask for a referral to Blackford Vet and let them get your best friend back on its feet. Located conveniently in West Knoxville. For more information, visit blackfordvetsurgery.com.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while you're clutching your blanket in the dark, wondering if that sound in the hall was actually a footstep, the real danger is in your hand, when you're behind the wheel. And while you might think a great white shark is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward, don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
At Knoxville Insurance Group, they understand the challenges many consumers face when searching for insurance coverage. That's why whether it's for you, your family, or your business, they create a coverage plan specifically for your unique needs. Knoxville Insurance Group is an independent firm, which means they aren't beholden to just one insurance company. They search multiple companies, acting as your negotiator to find you the best possible policy and price. Start a quote in minutes at KnoxvilleInsuranceGroup.com or call them today at 865-694-9788.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Running a business, coaching a team, planning your next big event, you need more than just gear. You need SM Athletics and Logo Solutions. Custom uniforms, branded apparel, promotional products, done right, done fast, and built to show off your brand with pride. From local businesses to high schools to major universities, SM Athletics is trusted by winners. Get real service, get real quality, get noticed. SM Athletics and Logo Solutions, where your brand comes to life.
Visit smathletics.com and let's build something great together.
You're listening to FM 105.7 and AM 1340, WKGN Knoxville, and W289CU Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
Smoky Mountain Brewery is the place to be for game day. From the moment you walk in, it's wall-to-wall big screens, making Smoky Mountain Brewery the perfect place to watch the Vols or your favorite team in action. With locations in Turkey Creek, Maryville, Pigeon Forge, and Gatlinburg, you're never far away from a great time at Smoky Mountain Brewery. Try one of their world-famous microbrews like Black Bear Ale, Mountain Light, or Cherokee Ale. Juicy burgers, wings that bring the heat, and delicious handmade pizzas made with hand-tossed crust from the freshest ingredients and their own special sauce from a secret recipe, topped off with hand-grated cheese and farm-fresh toppings. And don't forget, those famous microbrews are also available in kegs for your next party or in 6-packs and growlers to go. So grab your crew and head to Smoky Mountain Brewery and tell them Fan Run Radio sent you. Smoky Mountain Brewery. Eat local, eat good.
Here we go. Hour number 2 on a Wednesday, live from the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio. Brett Hullander, Alex Sarkis, and Garrett Armbrust joining you. I'm William Pattison. Great stuff in hour number 1. We'll continue it here in hour number 2 as we continue to discuss the transfer portal for Tennessee basketball. We'll also touch on the Lady Vols in addition to the baseball team getting a midweek win over UNC Asheville last night, and also take a little peek at those NBA playoffs that went down, the play-in tournament that went down last night. But before we get back to that portal board, I made a mistake. I did not recognize we had someone on the phone So we'll head to Matthew in Dallas on the line before we get things going. What's up, Matthew in Dallas?
What's going on, boys? Happy Wednesday. How are we feeling, boys? How are we doing?
Feeling good. Feeling good. You know, the portal provides a emotional roller coaster, especially when, you know, you've got so many names to know about, you got to keep track of, and you're also trying to figure out which ones are trending in the right direction and all of that. But I'm feeling good. Guys, what about you? You guys feeling good?
I can't complain.
Can't complain. Alex said he's feeling great. We're good over here at Matthew in Dallas.
Love it, love it. Well, listen, I'll make it quick, guys. I just kind of was thinking through this as I'm driving. You know, next year's roster for Tennessee basketball is set to be at 16. You know, currently you have 10 guys in the boat, and that leaves up 6 open spots to fill. And as we identified the 3 guys you've mentioned today, Hurlson, Hill, Juke Harris, my question to you all is what to do with those other 3 spots. You know, you've talked about William in hour 1 going after a center. I completely agree. But I do want to raise this question. If you were to go out and get all 3 of these guys, and then let's say you get this center that you're, you know, manifesting, if you will, that would leave you with 2 spots. My question to you all is, do we even entertain the idea of bringing back guys like Ethan Berg and Clarence Masamba that are rumored out there to potentially come back in? I know Berg hasn't necessarily declared nor left, but it's just a question I have for you all is when we talk about chemistry, and I know we've touched on this before, are we just going out for the most talented guys that we can bring in, or would you rather have some guys that maybe have seen continuity in this program? And I'll hang up with this last thought. You know, Brett, listening to hour 1, you talking about the highs and lows of Juke Harris, it kind of reminded me I'm getting married in 2 weeks, and as you talked about, what happens if they say no? Well, I can see her right now, you know, in 2 weeks when I get married, say, well, she could say no still. We were signed, sealed, and delivered. So I'll hang up with that thought, boys. Take care.
Exactly. Hey, we appreciate you calling in, Matthew in Dallas. You can't look that way. You can't look that way on life. You know, you can't say I'm not going to drive today because I could possibly get in a wreck. You got to keep on. You just drive. You know, it's part of it.
Sun's still shining.
There you go. Good question from Matthew in Dallas. And that's kind of on the topic of what we are going to discuss anyway. And that's, you know, filling out the roster. Now, again, we're not calling it for any said player. You know, there is momentum for a Harlison. It's good news that you're able to get Terrence Hill Jr. on your campus. There is momentum for Juke Harris, but obviously none of those are set in stone yet or done. So don't quote us saying that we were calling it. But if you're just trying to form out what your roster is going to look like, let's say you're able to add those 3 guys. Just hypothetically. We're not a hypothetical group, but we're going to do it just for the practice here. Then you've got a couple of roster spots left. Now, there's been some rumblings about Clarence Masamba. I'm not going to use Discord as my way of, you know, throwing out knowledge, despite some people on Twitter that decide to do it. You know, Masamba could possibly return. Ethan Berg could possibly return. There's also Nate Ament into the mix, likely going to go to the NBA draft. We discussed that yesterday on our Should I Stay or Should I Go segment. I believe Ament will go, and it's in the best interest for him. But obviously you would love to have him back. If you've got about 2 spots left, you can probably get Ethan Berg to return on a sweetheart deal, and you could probably bring back a Clarence Masamba on a sweetheart deal. Now, Masamba's in the portal. Unless he withdraws, you know, that's not something you can really fantasize at the moment, but at least with Ethan Berg, he hadn't made a decision. He's not yet entered the portal. He hadn't said he's staying. I think it is important to try and keep a couple of those guys on the roster, even if they're not going to play big minutes. Because I think ultimately Tennessee wants to play 6 to 7 to 8 guys in the NCAA tournament next year. That's the winning method. Michigan played 8 guys. You know, they weren't going to the 15th guy on their bench in a pivotal game. So I think that speaks volumes too. You'd like to have depth, but that really doesn't win you games in the tournament. So instead of trying to go out and pay, let's say, $1 million for a guy that's coming up from a mid-major school, and you got to pay him $1 million, but you could get like an Ethan Berg to return on like a $750,000 deal, right? You're saving money there just to keep a guy around that would be of the same level of a guy you already have. And I think it is important, too, with all the changes, you keep guys in the locker room from last year. Troy Henderson's doing that. Dwayne Brown's doing that, but those are the only 2 guys set to return currently. And Barnes has always talked about the importance of culture, the importance of a locker room, and if you're able to retain guys like that, I think it would be valuable for Tennessee outside of all of the big-time additions you could possibly have. So I'd be fine with keeping a Masamba or a Berg on the roster. Berg yet to make a decision. Masamba currently in the portal. We'll see what he decides to do. I'm not reporting that, and I know it's out on Discord somewhere that he might come back, but I'm not going to report it as factual until it happens. So I'd be fine with that, though. Alex, what do you make of it?
I think keeping Ethan Berg, I don't know what the fan base feel is on him, but I want people to go back and watch that Iowa State game. Watch how he handled that Iowa State press. Watch how he handled their pressure, their ball pressure that entire game. I think he was one of Tennessee's bright spots of that game, really was. And Ethan Berg's a really interesting story. He's a guy that almost left the team in the middle of the season despite all of his struggles, in the midst of all of his struggles. And I know those guys in the locker room really helped him, and he and Coach Barnes had a conversation, a heart-to-heart, saying, hey, do you want to do this? Because he goes home. I mean, he talked a lot at length in the tournament. I mean, he's going home to a war zone. So, I mean, he's a guy that I think is really, really important to keep around because I think he does bring a lot better value than people might think. I was impressed with him in the tournament from a basketball standpoint. I mean, I think his Iowa State game was one of the finer ones of his season. And it's important to have a guy like that coming off the bench for you. And it's important to have a guy that was a part of a team that went to that Elite Eight last year. I mean, even though he's not going to be probably, a big of an impact guy as you'd like him to be, still, I think he's important to keep around. And, like you said, William, it's probably going to be a similar value to what you could find in the portal already anyway if you're going for more depth guys. So I think keeping Ethan Berg would be good for this team.
Yeah, look, Ethan Berg was a guy that, I admittedly gave a ton of flack to. I know a lot of Tennessee fans did as well. But I did kind of feel bad about a lot of my comments after hearing what he had to say post-game following that Michigan loss, as you're kind of echoing, Alex. And I think that is a side of sports and a side of analysis that a lot of people don't consider, what one could be going through inside the jersey. And, I have to be critical of his performance, obviously. Yeah. But, I think in terms of if he returns as your 13th or 14th best guy or 12th best guy, whatever it may be, I don't think that really changes anything.
No.
So you might as well keep him instead of having to go pay, let's say, $250,000 more for a guy out of the portal and a guy that doesn't know the locker room and know the vibe of how the team goes.
And I have no doubt he's a Rick Barnes guy. And I think that's an important thing, too, is you want a guy that's going to play to that mold. I remember there was a moment he talked about he thought that he had made it this year, and it said it was during a practice where he simply locked up Jacoby Gillespie, as he told me. He said he had him in shackles, which I thought was a funny comment after that Michigan game. But no, I think he's a guy with a lot of untapped value that really maybe didn't come out because of the internal issues he was dealing with. And still, I think there's a lot of potential there that maybe people don't think there is.
Now, I see a comment real quick from Evan Titsworth asking about Money Williams. Money Williams has a top 5, and it does not include Tennessee. So he's going to be out of the mix, and we'll knock him off the list here in a moment. But I want to give you guys the opportunity to answer as well in terms of how you want to fill out the rest of the roster. Obviously, some guys you're trending in the direction for. Nothing is a done deal currently, but there are some guys at the back end of your roster that you'll have to fill, and you'll be probably put in the position of, do you go to the portal for those guys, or do you decide to maybe retain an Ethan Berg and maybe call back a couple of the guys that already entered the portal? Garrett, what do you make of that?
I think retention is still important in college athletics. I don't think you want to go out and buy a completely new team. I think it's fine to buy basically a completely new starting 5, but I don't think you want to build or create a new team just off the portal. I think that's tough to year in and year out have no voices in the locker room that were there before. And if you bring back Berg, you've brought back Henderson, they may not get a ton of minutes, but at least they've been a part of the Rick Barnes culture, and they understand what to expect from a Rick Barnes team, and they can kind of be leaders in the locker room of some of these guys that have never been here and never played under a Rick Barnes system. I just think it's dangerous if you go out and get 9-10 guys out of the portal that are your entire, rotational 9 pieces. I just don't think that's a great idea. You saw Kentucky have a lot of new blood on their team this year, and it didn't exactly internally go well for them this year. And they're not the only team that struggled with that. There's a lot of teams in the NIL era that have had really good rosters going into the season. You see it in football a lot too. A lot of retention rate, and then it just doesn't end up well. So I think you want to have some guys come back, even if that means they don't really have a spot on the team playing a whole lot. It just gives you more depth pieces that have been there and seen that. I just think that's more valuable.
Brett, what about you? Those final couple of roster spots, how do you want Tennessee to attack that?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, yeah, I think you'd like to have the guy like Berg back. Good locker room guy. He was always seemed to be the first guy off the bench cheering everybody on, even if he wasn't playing or was playing. You noticed that right away on the sidelines and things like that, and you saw his comments after the season. He's fine with the role he had this year, and it sounds like he'd be fine with a similar role coming back. So, yeah, I mean, I think we treated him as a scapegoat a lot of days and groaned when he came out there, but he got better as the season went on, and I think a full off season of being here, establishing him where he lives now and things like that will go a long way in helping him in his career if this is something he wants to continue to pursue. He's been through it a lot, and this is it's nice to probably have some stability for himself, and I think Tennessee's a perfect spot for that. He's got a great coaching staff, a great leader of men in Coach Barnes, who's going to teach him not basketball but life as well. Good faith guy, so I think he can learn a lot even if he's not playing the game of basketball.
Well, another question for this Tennessee team is, well, you're lacking a little bit of size. You would like to have a 7-footer on your roster. You've had it in years past. Felix Okpara was right around that number, and obviously J.P. Estrella was a bigger guy at 6'10", 6'11". You've only got one of them currently. Dwayne Brown's what, 6'9"?
Yeah,
6'9", 6'10". I mean, he's a big guy.
Nice.
He's wider, but 6'10", Miles Rubin is your tallest guy on the roster. You'd like to have one more tall player available so you can really be competitive against any type of roster. So let's go down the updated transfer portal list. I haven't put it out yet, but obviously you know the commits, Lundblade and Ames and Rubin. You know those guys on campus today. Jalen Harlison out of Notre Dame. Scheduled to arrive tonight is Terrence Hill Jr. out of VCU. But a couple of names that Tennessee has been linked to for a minute that seem to be trending in the wrong direction. One of them could be important. That's Najee Hines out of Seton Hall. That's a guy that is possibly in that mix for another big, as we're talking about having some more size. He's a highly coveted guy in the transfer portal. And at 6'10", that would kind of answer, one of your questions. Maybe not exactly 7 feet, but another big guy that averaged 2 blocks a night for the Pirates. Seems that Tennessee has some low momentum for him. And then Thomas Dowd out of Troy, if you asked us about 7 or 8 days ago, you'd say he's going to be a volunteer here soon. Kind of low momentum there as well. Doesn't seem like Tennessee has made any more ground up against an Auburn, another team in the mix for him. But a new name today that we got to officially open up to the public via Pete Nakos, Jaden Hastings out of Boston College. He's a 6'9", 240-pound forward who averaged 6.7 points and 5.6 rebounds on 61.1% shooting in 31 games for the Eagles this past season. And we talked last week about the connection for Day-Day Ames and Miles Rubin. Well, it's Amoro Morgan, the assistant coach for Tennessee that came in this past season, made his first year on Rocky Top this past year. You add Earl Grant to this assistant coaching staff a couple of days ago. Earl Grant was the Boston College head coach for 2 seasons. Well, he coached Jaden Hastings. So there's a connection there. And at 6'9", he kind of feels to me like a Jalen Carey replacement. Very good athlete, very strong.
You want to replace Jalen Carey?
Well, I do think Carey was, if you can be more efficient at 61.1% from the field, I think that is a plus. And at least a guy that can bang around down low. Now, Carey would miss a lot of easy ones. Everyone knows that. But he was a really good rebounder. I believe he was 4th on the all-time rebound list for Tennessee, offensive rebound list for Tennessee in a single season. That is still valuable. And at 6'9", I know he's not 7 feet tall, but he does have a really nice athleticism to him, and he's good around the rim. And at 61%, like that, I think that'd be an increase of what you had in Carey. So that's a name to think about, but we continue to go down the list because I'm going to X off a couple of guys here in a moment. I think Mustafa Thiem out of Cincinnati is your next best option in terms of getting a center with size. Now, he visited St. John's. We'll see if the Johnnies are able to lock him up, but I think outside of him and Hastings will be your best options moving forward and trying to get one more piece, because I think that would be the goal for Tennessee after you get your point guard, after you get a big ticket and possibly Juke Harris.
He would be significantly better, though, than Hastings, right?
Yeah, I think for the role, yes. I think Hastings would be...
He'd start over Rubin.
Probably.
I mean, this guy's 7'2" and averaged 12 points and 7 rebounds in the Big 12.
He's the third-ranked center in the portal, behind Diop and Bedunga.
I don't know anything that much about Hastings, but Boston College was not a good team this year.
Clearly.
And he averaged, I mean, he was obviously one of their more important players. I can't really get that excited for him, to be honest with you.
I think Hastings is more the connection you have with Coach Earl Grant. I think Thiem's going to be a little bit more expensive. So I think the staff is looking, okay, let's get an option to try and save. And they've done this throughout the portal, by the way, folks, which I think is a big upgrade from what they did last year, where they just pinned in on a couple of guys. They've been very wide in their selection. Like, here's our top guy. Here's a guy we would consider if we miss on him, and they go down the list. I think Hastings would be that type of guy because he's 6'9", not the size you want at 7 feet like a Thiem, but he is really aggressive on the glass and good around the rim. But the guys I'm going to X off, we already know about Bryson Tiller. We already know about Isaiah Johnson. Emmett Adair from Loyola, Maryland, he committed to George Mason within the last 24 hours. Money Williams, I'm Xing off as well because he has released his top 5, does not include Tennessee. And then I'm Xing out Joel Foxwell out of Portland, is taking multiple visits other than Tennessee, and I believe Tennessee is out on the mix for him. Still a couple of names on that radar that are more recent that I'm keeping. But in terms of that center position, does it feel like it's Thiem or bust, or would you be open to the idea of having a guy with Hastings down low banging around, Alex?
It's Thiem or bust for me. I mean, his numbers, 7'2", 250, 12.8 a game, 7.1 rebounds. I mean, that's 52% from the field. It's Thiem or bust for me. I think he gets, I mean, if you want any kind of, I think you, first of all, you need to have a 7-footer on this team. I think, with the scoring you're going to have, if you're able to bring in, the guys we've talked about, you would love to have that size because you've still got the size. I mean, 6'7" in Juke, and then 6'7" in Harlison, I think too. So I mean, you've got the size obviously that'll be on the perimeter, but 7-footer down low, you've got a really good size lineup now.
Yeah.
So I think it's Thiem or bust for me. Those numbers are really good.
Garrett, and I know you kind of echoed it earlier, but Thiem for you, just more specifically, kind of going away from Hastings.
Yeah.
Thiem, how big of a difference could he make? And I don't know if it's likely Tennessee is able to add him because it seems that other teams are highly coveting him while Tennessee is focused on other guys too. But, I mean, is there another guy out there like Thiem that you could replace? If not, is it Thiem or bust?
Yeah, but I think the size, he's 7'2". Obviously, that's important. You're looking for, we've talked about how important, replacing Akpara is going to be. And obviously, that's going to be one of the hardest things on your roster to replace. Obviously, Rubin is going to be the guy right now that's going to try and do that, but he's even a little bit undersized from Akpara was. Thiem, obviously, taller than Akpara, 12 points, 7 rebounds a game in the Big 12. I think that's the number one guy you would go after. Hastings, to me, is just undersized for that position. I don't know if the JUCO guy that we were talking about is still in the mix, but at least he had the size. I would almost rather go after him because he was 6'11", 7 foot. And I think size at that position is just so important, obviously. I would still go after the JUCO guy, honestly, over Hastings just because I feel like you have to have a 7-footer if you're going to compete for a national championship.
Yeah, Matt Mobile is a guy that's still on the radar for Tennessee, but like that would be one of those guys when we're talking with on Matthew's question, kind of a guy you add late. Emble would be one of those guys. I think you take.
It seemed hard to imagine to get a guy like Thiem, who's borderline top 10 in the portal, overall player.
I agree.
That seems like a guy too. If you got those 3 guys, like your budget's going to be
And maybe they can. I don't know, but
I mean, he's going to be at least a $3-4 million player. You would expect.
It just seems with the teams on there too. It just seems like
I think Michigan State's a team in the mix for him. St. John's,
UConn.
yeah.
I mean,
and then Hines was on a UConn visit. I mean, I think it seemed like UConn was a pretty good odds of getting him as well.
Yeah, I think UConn lost a 7-footer that went to the portal. It was where Eric Reeby. I mean, there's still names out there like you could get in the mix for that are big players that could do a job.
Now Reeby has a crystal ball to USC at this point.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking through. I don't know.
No, I know. I understand.
Yeah, but. Yeah,
I mean, how much would you spend on a guy like Thiem too? You talked about how that market's soaring.
Yeah,
and if you're going to bring in a juke, like I think it gets to a point. I mean, we've talked about them getting that trio,
and if the numbers for centers are
exactly with
highest.
the numbers inflated, I feel like that would be a little much. But
and that's the tough thing about it. And also,
now if you miss out on a Hill, a Harrelson, or somebody like that, then and you have them, and you can go throw a couple extra mil at the guy. That. Maybe that changes things.
If you go on the 247 and you look at the top centers, though, it's Badunga 1, Diop from Arizona State 2, Thiem 3, and then literally everyone else outside of Hines and like the top 10 to 15 is all committed somewhere. So obviously that's a position of need for every team.
Yeah.
And teams are willing to spend the money to get that position.
What about James Nanji from Baylor, Brett? Former NBA player.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it. I mean, obviously these aren't names that I'd come out and say are targets, but like I look at a Austin Maurer from Seattle at 7 feet, the 30th best portal player. Like at some point, if you just add, like Miles Rubin's probably gonna be your starter. If you just have a 7-footer available to come in and provide some sort of.
What about Ryu? Olivier Ryu.
I don't expect Tennessee to have any involvement with him.
I'm just kidding. I just saw
at
him
7'9", hey, that'd be some height.
Yeah.
That'd most certainly be some height, but I think that's the final step for
Are we
Tennessee.
going to be facing centers, though, that are like 7 feet?
Well, here's the thing. In the tournament, you never know who you're going up against, though. Like
if we played this Michigan team this year, if our 2026-27 team played this year's Michigan team, how would you stop Morrow?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Felix, I thought did all right against Morrow in the.
I'm talking about this year's
Felix
roster,
on your roster. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I obviously haven't seen this
because
Miles Rubin play, but
Rubin is a good help defender. I don't think he's a good one-on-one guy.
Though. He's only 200 pounds, too, right?
Well, I know, but he's a good help defender. He's a really good blocker, 237 career blocks, but he's a guy that comes over. Kind of reminds me of Jaren Jackson Jr. I watched it for 8 seasons with the Grizzlies. A guy that if you put him,
I just can't think of a center coming back in the conference that I'm worried about. Like, I mean,
but I'm not talking about conference. I'm talking about the tournament.
I mean, yeah, but you don't know where your draw is going to be. Like,
I know, but that's the unknown of it because a couple of years ago when you played like a Houston, you were significantly outmatched in terms of the size you had outside of Okpara. Like outside of Okpara, if he got in foul trouble, you had no one else to pivot to, and that's why this past year I thought you had an influx at that position because of how things went.
So you want to start Rubin alongside another guy? Is that what you're trying to do with your starting 5, or you?
I just want an option.
Pushing Rubin to the bench.
I just want an option.
Well, I'm just curious.
Of a 7-footer.
I mean, if you get Thiem, are you starting Rubin and?
Well, if you get Thiem, probably as a $3 to $4 million guy, and he'd be your starter, most likely,
100%.
But I'm not trying to push Rubin out of the way. I'm just saying you want to be able to match teams with size if you go up against it. Because
you do need more than one big. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
And
Dwayne Brown's going to improve next year, but I don't think Dwayne Brown's going to be good enough to go up against in a Damara. And obviously he's kind of a unicorn for college basketball, but there are going to be other 7-footers you're going to play that can, out-rebound a 6'10" Miles Rubin that doesn't have a ton of weight to him.
And Brown's only 6'8".
Yeah.
But guys aren't like, Mars wasn't being thrown the ball in the post. I mean, occasionally who was, because if he had it going, but like, most
he
of them
played
are
pretty darn good in the Final Four.
No doubt about it. But he only had 7 points against us. Like, I mean, I know they didn't need it because Lindenborg was going off, but like in the semifinal, because Lindenborg got hurt, it was a great option to have.
He also had those 2 fouls early against Tennessee too.
Yeah,
but also, when I look at Mara, I mean,
we're talking about a top 10 pick in the NBA draft as well.
Well, I know, but I mean, he was skilled in a lot of different ways. We discussed that yesterday. I think you just need to have one guy above another guy above 6'10".
You need a 7-footer.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has to be like a top play. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Mara obviously was very good, but like he was underused at UCLA.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Michigan thought that they were going to get that production from him.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, if I'm Tennessee, I'm sitting there on the portal site and I'm typing in 7 feet. It's kind of like Tinder. Kind of like Tinder for portal players.
I'm just saying, the guy that played at recruited by UConn play. I'm talking to this Reeve guy. I really would, and I know you said he's talking to whoever right now, but I mean, I'd be interested in a guy that played for UConn. They've had great success with bigs in the past. Now this guy didn't play because they had Terrace Reed, but you might have a little bit of a diamond in the rough there.
There's a Chol Machot, too, from College of Charleston. He's 7 feet.
Hey, go look in what Illinois does. go Serbia or whatever.
That's international Tinder.
Yeah, but doesn't Polinsky have some like ties to the international scene as well? Like, go just find you another Euros if you want somebody that's gonna bump bodies and
go tell Masamba to go pick a friend, and if he brings a guy here for
another Wemby over there. A unicorn? You got any unicorns?
Just take a flyer on Olivier.
I'm saying there's got to be some. There's 7 footers out there somewhere.
Yeah, wow. They stick out. They aren't hard to find when you're walking by them, but it seems right now in the portal, not too many great options at 7 feet.
Because I think your focus right now is these 3 guys. It seems like, and I think you move on after that, and maybe you can. If it's not them, you just find a cheap option to fill a 7-foot role that you guys want to do so desperately.
An interesting name that he's since committed. He committed to Pittsburgh earlier, but Amarni Mighty was a kid out of Mercer that a lot of people had interest in. Maybe not Tennessee, but just think he's an underrated player. Like we were talking about, just trying to find one of those guys that kind of can come out of the woodwork.
And maybe it is that JUCO guy you guys keep mentioning.
Yeah, and I mean it could be, and he's 6'11".
And he'd be fine coming off the bench.
Maybe, yeah, he'd be fine coming off the bench. So maybe I'll text him, see if he's willing to lock it in now, because that'd give you at least a guy.
Hey, you want to go to the Final Four next year?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm about to get my flight to Detroit here soon.
Oh God.
I'm just kidding. When we come back, we'll switch over to the Diamond. Tennessee baseball gets a win over UNC Asheville and continues their momentum heading into the weekend series up against Ole Miss. Stay right here. We'll break it down. We return right here on the Playbook.
For the fans, by the fans, this is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Are you ready for the start of a new season? Maybe looking for your team to go on a tournament run? Get game day ready with Crumble. Head on over to your nearest location and pick up 12 pre-selected cookies plus exclusive toppers. When you're looking for dessert options, there's no question about who you should call on. Our listeners already know. Last year, the Dubai chocolate was a home run, along with the brownie batter. Oreo crumb was another crowd favorite. What new flavor will set the standard this season? If you're in the Knoxville area, there are 3 locations ready to serve you: Clinton Highway, Parkside Drive, and Maryville. Download the Crumble app to build your best lineup and vote on the best combos. You can even put your bid in to request a new flavor. Order in the app and slide on over to your nearest location. Tell them Fan Run sent you, and as always, it's for the fans, by the fans. Don't miss the cookies.
White Claw is taking hard seltzer to new heights with White Claw Surge. At 8% alcohol, White Claw Surge is a stronger wave of refreshment that doesn't compromise on taste. Available in 4 bold waves of flavor like ripe blackberry, citrusy blood orange, zesty natural lime, and tart cranberry. Check out your favorite retailer in-store and online for the White Claw Surge Variety 12-pack and 16-ounce single-serve cans. White Claw Surge. Please drink responsibly.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Wilco at Knoxville Smiles. Have you ever wanted to improve the look of your smile? We know firsthand what the power of a great smile means to a person's confidence and health. Our team of doctors can provide you with an array of options for helping you achieve your cosmetic goals. From simply moving teeth into a better position, to reversible cosmetic bonding, to full mouth implant-supported dentures. It is our goal to help patients feel good about their appearance while achieving optimal health. Want to learn more? Call us at 865-539-1776 to schedule an evaluation or visit us online at knoxvillesmiles.com.
Running a business, coaching a team, planning your next big event, you need more than just gear. You need SM Athletics and Logo Solutions. Custom uniforms, branded apparel, promotional products, done right, done fast, and built to show off your brand with pride. From local businesses to high schools to major universities, SM Athletics is trusted by winners. Get real service, get real quality, get noticed. SM Athletics and Logo Solutions, where your brand comes to life.
Visit smathletics.com and let's build something great together.
Fan Run Radio, the flagship station for Tennessee fans.
This ain't no wishy-washy, limp-wristed, kale-eating, half-ass sports radio station.
We're your in-your-face, truth-telling, say-it-loud, flag-waving, face-painting, hardcore, bring the noise, causing a ruckus, don't give a damn sports station.
Sports talk that doesn't just hang up and listen.
For the fans. This is Fan Run Radio.
Get some.
Hanging out with us on this fine Wednesday from Knoxville, Tennessee. Ton of transfer portal talk today, and deservedly so, as things are starting to heat up for the Volunteers. Still work left to be done. It's not a done deal yet for any of these guys, not coming out and acting like it is, but it's...
We kind of are.
Well, we're
talking about adding pieces to this amazing starting five we may have.
Well, what I'm trying to add to is, focus, and I think the staff has done a great job with it, focusing on, each task at the same time. Yeah. You need a point guard, you need a big ticket, you probably need a center as well. And I think that the fact that Tennessee's been able to do all of that at once and be able to get these guys on campus and also be able to do these in-home visits, I think it speaks volumes to the type of growth they have done or growth they have made from last year's portal process, where it was like 4 guys, everyone in the world knew it, and Tennessee whiffed on 3 out of the 4. And it was kind of like, well, we're going to have to figure it out. I think they've done a much better job of rounding the bases. And speaking of rounding the bases, there was a lot of that last night inside Lindsey Nelson Stadium as Tennessee baseball got a midweek run rule win over UNC Asheville, 11-1 on Tuesday night, thanks to a career day from shortstop Manny Marin. The game started slowly, with both teams failing to record a hit in the first 2 innings, but Garrett Wright put an end to that with an RBI double down the left field line to plate the game's first run, and Reese Chapman followed him up with a looping RBI single over the second baseman's head, scoring Wright and giving the Vols a 2-0 lead. And then you had a leadoff double from Henry Ford. Blake Grimmer gets walked, and then a single by Trent Grinlinger, and then the Big Orange then load the bases. And with the Ducks on the pond, Manny Marin cashed in with a 2 RBI double to right field to extend the Vols' lead to 4. And really from then on out, Tennessee just continued their dominance. Marin stepped up a little bit later on in the game and parked his second career grand slam into the second deck to take the lead to 9-1. And then Grinlinger came up one batter later and sent the fans home happy with a walk-off single to left field, sealing the run rule victory by a score of 11-1. Yesterday I said I wanted a prop your feet up type game. A little bit slow early on, but Tennessee quickly got things going, and we'll talk more about a big day for Manny Marin here in a moment. But Alex, to you, your takeaways from yesterday's win.
Well, before my takeaways, in Major League Baseball world, Drew Gilbert is headed back to the big leagues. He'll join Tony Vitello tonight in San Francisco, it sounds like. So a little bit of a Tennessee connection there. But no, it was basically your run-of-the-mill midweek game, I think, for Tennessee. I think, like you said, William, you look at that final score and you might think it was a laugher the whole time, but it wasn't. Tennessee only had 2 hits through 5 innings, so maybe a little bit of a hangover early on from the weekend in Starkville. But No, solid stuff. Obviously, Manny getting the job done, career night, and then the pitching was great. I mean, the bullpen doesn't allow an earned run. Blaine Brown, that was his first start since March 3rd, so he got back out there after that was the start against ETSU where he loaded the bases without getting an out. So he was good. Only took him 10 pitches to get through his first inning. So, I mean, a lot of good stuff. Braden Krenzel got back out there to close it. He was clean. So pretty much a pretty clean night for everything. I know Josh Elander gave an update on Stone Lawless's return. I think he's going to start baseball activities at some point this week and start his track and getting back to behind the plate. But, a pretty run-of-the-mill night, and it ends in a run rule in good fashion. A lot of young guys able to get in the game. So pretty good stuff from Tennessee. They've won 5 in a row for the first time since early March, too. So looking to keep it going.
That momentum going to be big this week, and we'll talk about that matchup here in a moment. Garrett, to you. Big day for Manny Marin. Led the way offensively with 2 extra base hits and a career-high 6 RBIs in the win. And then you had freshman left-hander Taylor Tracy recorded his first collegiate win on Tuesday night with 2 scoreless innings of relief. The Vols are now 10-0 this season in midweek games and have outscored their opponents 106-27. Now, you expect that in these midweek contests, but still a good number. But going back to Manny Marin, career-high 6 RBIs in the win. What'd you make of Manny Marin's performance?
Yeah, obviously huge night. Hits the grand slam to kind of ice it. I mean, I guess it was pretty much over before that, but that really iced it. It went from 5-1 to 9-1. But no, I mean, a great game for him. We've talked about the production of this lineup. You have to get it from guys like that, and he's really turned the corner from, I'd say a month ago or so. I mean, he's really started hitting a lot better. He still had, a little bit of some issues here and there, but he's been a pretty consistent hitter for this roster. And if you can have a shortstop that can, hit and hit for power a little bit and get on base like that's important because obviously you have the guys that you feel confident in and Garrett Wright and Henry Ford and, Blaine Brown is had, some issues offensively, but those are kind of the guys that you feel like when they come up are going to give you power and can get on base, but it's what can some of these other guys do, like Marin, and to be able to see him get hits, that's big for your roster and big for your team to be able to see, guys in the 6-7 hole be able to get on base. So that's a big game for him. Pitching was really good, like we said, not a plethora of strikeouts. I think your pitchers only had 4 strikeouts last night, but kept the ball in play, kept the ball in the field, and your defense has been really good this season. You had a couple of really nice plays last night, and Taylor Tracy, another good night. And I'll continue to say what I think. I think he should be a guy that possibly can come in for a bullpen role on the weekends. I think he's shown in midweek games that he's one of the better pitchers on this staff in the bullpen. So I think he's a guy that you could see, especially – once you get to postseason ball, hopefully, knock on wood, Tennessee makes a regional. Obviously, things are looking up right now, but I think if you're in one of those situations where you have to go play a 4th game to move on to a super regional, he's the guy that you feel pretty good coming out of your bullpen when you're playing a lot of baseball in a short amount of time. So it's nice to be able to see some of these guys that don't pitch as much on the weekends have nice outings. Krenzel pitched pretty well last night in the inning he went. Welcoming sight to see him have a strikeout and get out of an inning unharmed. So hopefully the bullpen is turning a little bit of a corner here.
Brett, to you, any takeaways from last night? Manny Marin strong outing, overall team strong outing.
Yeah, not much to add. I mean, I didn't get to see a whole lot of it. I was busy battling the rivals during this game.
Yes.
But, more important things to tend to. But, no, it's just, I mean, we spoke on it yesterday. You wanted another, what do we say, kick your feet up game?
Yeah, prop your feet up.
I was just watching to see if Jalen Harrelson would make an appearance.
I was looking online. I didn't see it.
And you weren't eavesdropping either, I noticed. You said you might swing on down there to see if you would spot anything. But, it worked for Lundblade, so I thought maybe we would do it there too.
I know. I didn't end up leaving here till about 7:45 last night, so I wasn't able to make it over to the game. But
if I could pick my favorite stat from this one last night, the UNC Asheville starter, Garrett Crum, okay, 6 1/3 innings. 115 pitches. They let him ride. I was stunned. I mean, he came in. He had bases loaded for Blaine Brown He was at 100 pitches, and they left him in.
Oh, yeah.
Got out of the inning. Only gave up. I mean, they gave up.
It wasn't
5.
the worst game for him.
I mean, listen, for throwing 115 pitches against, Tennessee's offense.
He did walk 6 guys, but only 5
That's
runs.
the other thing. He walked 6 guys, and he had only given up 2 hits through the first 5 innings. So it was, but that was pretty wild.
They did try the worst stolen home play in the history of baseball.
Yeah, they were aggressive in that first inning.
That's why you tune in to SEC Network Plus.
Yeah.
That's why you watch on a Tuesday night.
We do need to get Blaine Brown going, though, right? I know Garrett's mentioned his name, but he's struggling mightily. He was 180-something in the Mississippi State series. He's 0-4 last night. He's just too talented to keep out of the lineup, and things like that. He's still, his glove was good against Mississippi State and made some big plays out there in the outfield. So I don't know what we got to do to get him going, honestly.
I think that arm in left field, too, is really hard to keep out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the best arm on the team probably in the outfield. So, I don't know. We'll see if he can get going.
Tennessee back in action this weekend up against Ole Miss, and that begins on Friday night at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. The Rebels come in as the number 22 team in the country. Friday night's game, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the SEC Network Plus. Also, Checker Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Have they ever done that before? Is this the first time?
I think they have.
They did it the first game back from
like
COVID in 2021 when it was first full attendance. And I think it was against Ole Miss. Walked the game off.
Does it look good? I've never seen it. I feel like it wouldn't look good.
I guess I was a freshman that year, and I wouldn't have been. And I don't remember that. 2021.
It would have been spring of 2021.
Oh, okay, I wasn't even in college yet then. So no, I don't. Yeah, then I don't know then. But what do you make of this matchup this weekend, Alex?
Obviously a tough one, but I mean, listen, Tennessee's needed momentum all year, and like I said on Friday last week, they're going to face the best pitching they've faced, and what did they do? Put up 19 runs over the series. So, I mean,
they're on a winning streak, right?
Yeah, 5 games.
Yeah, they swept Ole Miss. They swept LSU.
Are you talking Ole Miss?
Yeah, Ole Miss, they're coming in pretty hot.
They swept LSU.
So, I mean, listen, another tough test, but man, you can piece back-to-back series wins together against Mississippi State and Ole Miss. That's what you're looking for this time of year. It's the halfway point. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's obviously, I think you're going to get the starting pitching like you've gotten all year, and hopefully the bats can, stay hot, and then you're looking at you should win a series again at home. So it's going to be an entertaining one.
Moving through the Magnolia State, the opportunity this weekend for Tennessee baseball as they welcome in Ole Miss. Once again, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the SEC Network Plus. First game on Friday, and then Checker LNS on Saturday. When we come back, we'll wrap things up, and we'll talk some Juke Harris. Some people in the comment section asked about Juke Harris. We'll talk a little bit about that, but also the NBA playoffs were last night. That's a big smile on my face. We'll break it down when we return right here on the Playbook.
Congratulations. You found sports radio that doesn't suck. This is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Hey Knoxville, Surfside iced tea and vodka made with real brewed tea is only 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar with no bubbles and no troubles. That's right, zero carbonation, so it's easy to sip and enjoy. Headed to a game day or party at a friend's house? Bring an iced tea or lemonade variety pack from Surfside or try their green tea and new raspberry tea vodka. Find the can with the sunset stripes this season. Surfside iced tea and vodka, sold at bars, restaurants, and stores near you. Surfside iced tea and vodka, sunshine in a can. Must be 21 or older. Enjoy responsibly.
Citizens National Bank.
Life is more fun with a Good Life account, offering extra benefits, including bank travel. Experience the trip of a lifetime to Ireland. Explore rolling green hills, historic castles, and charming villages across the Emerald Isle. Get in on the fun. Call 865-429-7935 today.
Citizens National Bank. Banking never felt so good.
Member FDIC.
Barley's has live music on weekends, general team trivia on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m., and now live sports trivia courtesy of the Knoxville Trivia Guys every Thursday night upstairs. The game starts at 7 p.m. and is free to play for everyone, so head on down to the Old City and show off your sports knowledge and win gift cards to Barley's. Use those gift cards to buy some delicious food and drinks, and you can take it all in with their wide selection of TVs and indoor projectors. Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria.
At Knoxville Insurance Group, they understand the challenges many consumers face when searching for insurance coverage. That's why whether it's for you, your family, or your business, they create a coverage plan specifically for your unique needs. Knoxville Insurance Group is an independent firm, which means they aren't beholden to just one insurance company. They search multiple companies acting as your negotiator to find you the best possible policy and price. Start a quote in minutes at KnoxvilleInsuranceGroup.com or call them today at 865-694-9788.
All right, wrapping things up on a Wednesday edition of the Playbook. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Coming up in about 14 minutes, it's The Drive with Russell Smith, Bob Baskerville, the Bear, and Walker Smith, rounding out your Wednesday here in Knoxville. Alex on the YouTube stream, not this Alex, unless you're on your computer as well, asking about Juke Harris, crystal ball. Again, that's just Michigan and North Carolina people doing that. But again, like, he was crystal ball to Michigan over the weekend. So the crystal ball, I guess, means something.
Means a lot.
But I will say in the portal process, it's a lot more fluid. And how much intel is a Michigan guy getting? I don't know.
Free website, it says Tennessee 53.3%, Michigan 46.6%, North Carolina less than 1%.
Got it down to the 10th.
Yeah, and I texted my North Carolina buddies. They're not confident at all. They kind of moved on to other.
It's the 24/7 people that are coming out and saying that it's
my North Carolina guys are saying they kind of moved on, I think, from him.
So I don't want to get ahead of myself on it. I know we did a lot of discussion about it, but I think it's big that, you know, he hadn't committed yet to a Michigan, hadn't committed yet to a North Carolina, and Tennessee still has that relationship with him. And then, again, these other guys on campus. I think it's a huge deal that Terrence Hill Jr. is getting to campus, because I assumed that Kansas was going to lock him up and he wasn't going to be able to make it.
We all thought the same thing about Juke when he went to Michigan.
Yeah.
We thought it was a done deal too.
Tennessee has survived. You know, in the world, in the game of the portal, surviving a visit.
I guess it's different than football, because once guys visit these football schools, like, we got no chance.
Well, shoot, for Tennessee, that was the case.
Yeah, everybody. Of course, that was them going to Tech.
Yeah.
People don't leave
Well,
Tech.
hell, West Virginia got Cam Cook.
That's right.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
Also lost about 400 people, but
yeah, that is true. Well, hey, they got a 70-person class coming in.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see Danny White make comments today regarding Kim Caldwell?
I missed that.
I mean, we won't get into it today, but it might be something to look into. We can maybe discuss tomorrow if you get a chance to read him. But he went on the other station and had some things to say about the Kim Caldwell situation.
It must not have been anything as ludicrous as the last time, because maybe maybe that's a good time for him to go on.
He said he was not surprised by people leaving, the amount of people that left the program. Is one of the things he said out of. I mean, he had 3 or 4 different quotes on there. It was a pretty long article. So
I'll look it up.
You can look it up and we can discuss, because we didn't really get into Lady Vols today.
Alex talking about Nate. Really no intel on that. Tennessee would love to have him back.
He's going to go through.
But I imagine he'd go back to the draft. Yeah. Speaking of the NBA, I know it's everyone's favorite topic. We got 5 minutes, folks. We gave you an hour and 55 of
when you could probably talk about these games in about 30 minutes, because they were good.
They were great games.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Great games. Hornets and Heat.
Epic.
That was an awesome finish, awesome game. I feel bad for Bam Adebayo. Who knows where that game could have gone, but the Heat are always playing.
He would have won if he stayed in the game.
Yeah, well, that very well could. I know they're
tripped him.
They're looking at LaMelo Ball possibly suspending him.
Did you think it was malicious, or did you think he just kind of get caught up?
I think LaMelo Ball is too big of a cornball to do something like that maliciously.
I mean,
he was apologetic in the post-game press conference. Like, he said he was going to reach out to him.
Everybody's going to be.
When is LaMelo Ball ever most of the time you see LaMelo Ball, though, it's for something stupid
he's
or
looking right at him, and he would have landed on his 2 feet. He tripped him.
I don't think it was malicious. I think he's too big of an airhead for stuff like that, personally. But great finish,
I thought the Heat had them. They were up, 4? They came back in the fourth
quarter.
Up
4 with 30 seconds left.
Yeah, it's crazy. Spoelstra gets those guys to play somehow in the postseason.
The Hornets have played much better basketball in the second half of the season, but I will say, despite the win last night, that was a prime LaMelo Ball performance. I mean, I look up, and it's, 2 of 15 from 3?
Yeah, he needed to quit shooting.
Please, Lord, quit shooting.
31 shots.
That's going to be a problem in the next game, too, if Knipple is – because he was a non-factor last
Knipple had,
night.
6 points?
The difference is Kobe. I mean, Kobe White.
Yeah, Kobe White, and the Bulls traded him away.
Bridges was good. Brandon Miller was good. I mean, they left.
Ware for Miami had like 20 rebounds almost.
Yeah.
Those are two teams that have good bones but don't have a good body. Like, they don't have a good body of work. Now, the Hornets I think are trending in the right direction, but I don't think LaMelo Ball as your star is ever going to get you anywhere. I don't think he's a serious player. I thought you saw that last night.
They'll cause problems for the Pistons.
Pistons defensively are going to give LaMelo Ball fits. Like, if that's one of your go-to guys, like Knipple's got to shoot the ball better. Brandon Miller had a couple of big shots last night. They've got other guys. Mm-hmm. I just think LaMelo Ball is too goofy of a star to win you a playoff series. I think he's perfect for Charlotte the way they played the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. And last night was a prime example of it. 2 of 15. Did he finish 2 of 15?
2 of 16.
2 of 16, even better.
12 of 31 for the game.
That's horrendous.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's these type of shots too, where he's like got one leg up in the air, and it looks like we're at Rucker Park. Not a serious player, but congrats to the Hornets for having at least a little bit of playoff hope. They got to win another one. If they beat the Magic, that's actually, I want to see Magic Hornets, because the Hornets are the team that haven't been in the playoffs for forever.
Aren't the Hornets through?
No, they got to play another game.
If you're in the 9-10, you got to win 2 games.
Yeah, they got to play. They play the loser of Sixers Magic tonight. I want to see the Magic play another game.
The Magic might be done because they said they're firing their coach basically no matter what happens.
You've got a team.
I mean, I think they'll win tonight because no Embiid, and I think they can beat them. No Embiid's playing, because I don't think he's playing the whole postseason.
Sixers are a dumpster fire too.
And the other game was good too.
Other game I was all up for. I was.
That Avdija guy, whatever it is, I've never seen that guy play.
Demi Avdija?
Goodness, he was an all-star, wasn't he?
Yeah, it shows how interesting. I mean, Avdija's a good player. I don't want to give any strays, but that just shows how poorly the NBA markets some of these players. Avdija's had a really good season, and he tied his season high last night for 41. But that was a great second half, back and forth. That's what it's all about. And my big thing last night was this past season was the worst NBA product I have ever witnessed in my 23 years of living. Last night, we got back to basketball.
This is playoff basketball.
We got back to players playing like they have some sort of thing on the line.
Yeah, they cared.
And it wasn't a bunch of guys in street clothes outside of Damian Lillard, but it wasn't street clothes. It was back and forth. It was hard fouls. It was chippy. It was back and forth. That's why can't. I mean, I know. I just think these guys get paid way too much now.
Yeah.
To where there's no incentive for them to sit out. Like if I went and ran into the door on the way out here, and I played in the NBA, I'd be out for 2 weeks because I've got a sore elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just make too much money. Yeah. And there are a number of variables outside of it. The analytics stuff, shoot more threes than twos. It's watered down the offensive product, the defense. I think guys are more athletic, so it's harder to defend some of these guys. But the defense is...
I just don't know how you fix it. It seems unfixable, to be honest.
I know. But I love the game. Suns Blazers was a lot of fun.
They do have to redesign the play-in a little bit, though. Because, the Warriors were, 10 games ahead of, missing the play-in, but they couldn't, make up any ground, really, right?
Yeah.
It seems like you could have a little bit of reconstruction. The Warriors' last week and a half of their season didn't mean anything. They were going to be in the same spot no matter what.
Yeah.
Warriors-Clippers is a good one tonight. Clippers turned around they're 6-21 to begin the year, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Turning it around.
Kawhi's been awesome.
Curry's going to be on a minute restriction, I think, too. So,
Alex, are you a big NBA guy?
Don't watch it at all.
There we go. But you're going to watch some
playoff hockey
this weekend.
Battle PA, Pens Flyers.
See, I'm on the opposite side.
Yeah.
I don't do any NHL.
Watch some playoff hockey. Those guys care.
Yeah. There you go.
And they care about the regular season.
Yeah, they do.
They play all 82 games. These guys are getting slammed into boards every night.
It's gonna
we
be
got
fun.
NBA guys out here.
My
big toe hurts.
Do yourself a favor, watch playoff hockey. It's one of the best sports products in the world.
I like listening to Sean McDonough
Yes.
Call. I think he does a good job.
He
with
does
hockey.
a great job. Same with Bob Wischusen. It's really good too.
I know like 5
Was it
hockey players.
Kenny Albert?
Kenny Albert, yeah, he's great.
Kenny Albert.
He did the Olympics.
I know Tage Thompson. Is that kind of a
Buffalo?
Is that kind of a rare pull?
Yeah, they'll be fun this year.
He was great.
There's some good, really good storylines. Few teams haven't been in a while.
Like I know the Sidney Crosbys and Ovechkins, but Tage Thompson, like my sophomore year of college, one night I sat down and watched the Sabres play. They played the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Thompson had like 5 goals.
That was the last name I thought you would say.
Yeah, Tage Thompson.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for a Wednesday edition of the Playbook. We appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow 1 to 3 to break down all the latest in the transfer portal for the Tennessee men's basketball team and women's basketball team, that is. But coming up next, it's The Drive right here on Fan Run Radio. For Brett Hullander